So thank you, Colin Tuchim, for being our guest at this talk now. Okay. I've noticed that a humble, intellectual British gentleman like you from the Midland of Britain was very unlikely to appear in Hong Kong when it was in colony. We used to see military officers, police officers from Liverpool, right, or Manchester, who were looking after the streets. We used to see very few intellectual Britain like you, who looked too liberal to be here, right? Now, may I assume that it is an outcome of Brexit? And at the same time, you have Percy Leung, right, an elite Hong Kong student with tens of thousands of his peers escaping from Hong Kong to study in Britain. Now we seem to have a strange two-way traffic, which is a bit confusing. You know, why are you here?
Well, I was born in Liverpool as well, as it happens.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. It's somewhere near John Lennon's house, I believe. No, I think the thing that brought me over was my university. I was.
You don't have the accent.
This is true.
Thanks to the Oxford education.
I went to Manchester when I was 2. But
I remember the Liverpoolian man called it chicken coolie instead of chicken curry.
Well, there's all sorts of things we do in Liverpool. Yeah. But the university I was at, as Director of Music, University of Warwick, sent me over here 20-odd years ago to come and do some talks in schools. And when I was here, I also did some rehearsals, conducting choirs and orchestras, and people said, you should come and work here, or even you should come and live here. Well, it's taken sort of about 18 years for me to make that decision. So I wasn't, in a sense, escaping England. I don't think actually Hong Kong students are escaping Hong Kong to go to England. I don't think that, in a way, people are escaping from something. I think very often we're moved towards something that we hope will be better or more propitious.
That's a nice way of putting it.
I think
that's what you call euphemism.
Well, it's not so much that. I have a positive view on the world. I don't have such a negative view of the world. Escape from is negative, but moving towards something is a positive step. And I'd like to see that the youngsters of Hong Kong certainly are being very positive when they actually are looking for new opportunities. They're not turning their back totally on Hong Kong, and many of them do come back with the skills they've acquired, with extra experience, and they enrich Hong Kong. And I hope that my journey here has also enriched Hong Kong. It's certainly enriched me, because I found here things I would never have been able to think of or discover if I'd stayed in the UK. And also I've discovered people and friends and music and so on that I had no chance of understanding if I had stayed in the UK. So this world conflagration, if you like, where we all meet in the middle somewhere, means that we can then sort of disappear back somewhere or to somewhere new and spread what we learn from each other. So from my point of view, the interaction between Hong Kong and Britain has been very positive.
Well,
that's
very impressive.
Yeah, it is. Well,
I tell you, but when Anna, the English teacher, right, appeared in the Thai palace in Bangkok, I think in the year of 1862, I remember there's a singing from a musical, Getting to Know You.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Getting to know you, getting to know all about you. Well, to avoid looking too chauvinistic, she did say, it is a rare chance for me to learn from you.
Yes.
Right? But in fact, from the theme of the musical, we know that it should have been a one-way traffic, or it turned up to be a one-way traffic because the Thai king never learned, apparently.
That may be true.
Or he learned very little.
But I discovered when I started teaching...
My apology to any Thai audience.
But when I started teaching, I realised I was starting to learn. And I think a good teacher begins to learn at the point you start to teach each individual something and some way that is new for each student. And then watching them grow, you yourself learn from their growth.
I wouldn't necessarily agree with Colin, probably because he's from Oxford and I'm from Cambridge, so we can't agree technically. But I don't think that we're always, as Hong Kong youngsters...
He sounds a bit condescending.
No, not at all, not at all, just British.
Patronizing.
Just British, just very British. No, not at all, just being British. But I would probably say that as a Hong Kong youngsters, I'm not always heading towards something. I think to a large extent, I'm escaping from Hong Kong to Britain to achieve something better. I mean, Hong Kong for me, for music, for culture, for history, is a desert compared to Europe. And for the more complicated, let's put it in a very understatement, complicated political situation here, and also the weather or the pollution here. I think it is hard not to say that I'm escaping from Hong Kong to achieve something better.
Far from being very pleasant.
Indeed, to find a better or more invaluable opportunity abroad. So we're escaping somewhere unpleasant from our perspectives to going towards somewhere more pleasant. So I think it's a combination of escaping from and going towards to.
Well, it's very frank of you. I could see a bit of British education in what you've just said.
Just a bit?
Right? A little bit.
Okay,
but
well.
you still need a few years, right, to grow to the kind of linguistic maturity that your mentor has just shown. Right? He has said things more nicely. While avoiding using very strong adjectives. Perhaps.
I've been spending quite a lot of years avoiding that, yes.
Well, but I'm not blaming you. When I was at your age, I was more blunt than you, right?
Yep.
So, but you don't agree that you're escaping from a very unpleasant education system in Hong Kong, which is largely Chinese.
I'll agree that I'm also escaping from that to a certain extent.
For example, was history taught interestingly in secondary schools in Hong Kong?
Well, I've only been in Hong Kong secondary school for half a year only, and I already can't stand the duck feeding or spoon feeding education that Hong Kong system has developed. And I went to an international school in Hong Kong, Yu Cheung, and I cannot emphasize how different the teaching of history is between the local system and the international system.
So you were taught by expert teachers like Colin.
Absolutely, yes.
You had a good luck of that, right?
Yes, I have had an Indian teacher, a British teacher, a Kiwi teacher, and an Australian teacher. All of them technically related to British from colony or from the basis. But I think that the teaching of history from the international perspective is much more open-minded and objective and less emotional. I think, as we have discussed before, Chinese and Hong Kongers tend to describe historical figures in a more emotional or emphatic way. I think we discussed Hitler last time, that in Chinese we have Hitler talking about describing Hitler as Hey Mo.
Yes.
But in
China, we talked about how Hitler was taught or described in all Chinese history textbook, right?
Yep.
It is always accompanied by the word the demon, right? Okay. Whereas in English history textbooks or any books, Hitler is Hitler. No adjective, no branding. Right.
But we now use the word Hitler to describe other people.
Yeah, or Hitlerian, Hitlerian, right?
Yep. Well, we have this phrase, you're a little Hitler.
Yeah.
But
the name itself, has become an alternative adjective. Right?
Well, I think the biggest difference is that the Hong Kong history curriculum would really encourage students to be really subjective into studying different periods of history.
Oh my God.
And in international perspective or international school perspective, the study of history is much more objective, looking at different angles. That's why it's preventing us from being overtly emotional in the study of history. It is very difficult to be logical and emotional at the same time. I think studying history in any subject at all, logic should precede emotion.
Wow. If I were the Chinese government, I would start being a bit worried. How on earth am I going to convert you back when you come back from the corrupt education? Britain.
It's very corrupt, so I wouldn't waste time on me.
I have to bring you back to Chinese patriotism, right? In a few years' time. Or you end up finding a teaching job there in Britain for good. Don't come back.
Okay, let's see how it goes before we go for exile.
By the way, Percy is a protege of Colin, right?
Yep.
What do you learn from Colin now?
I've been studying conducting with Colin for over 11 years.
Right, what a versatility. So you look forward to going back to St. Andrews after the vacation?
Not just to St. Andrews, but also back to Europe, to Britain and Germany, to continue my research, my conducting activities, and to hopefully developing my more corrupt mindset of British education.
Wow. Okay, wow, thank you, Colin.
Thank you.
And congratulations for your education. Well, it works.
You have to have a good student to be a good teacher.
Very good.
You have a good teacher to have a good student.
Okay, well, we'll see you soon.